Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the PHIner Life Show. I'm your host, Brother Hush. Now, listen, we're going to space and beyond with this show. All right, listen. I had to bring in the big guns, and he's probably looking at me like, why would he have to do that? Why do you have to stereotype all Marines? But listen, I have to say, you're the highest ranking senior enlisted Marine that I've had on my show thus far, Master Gun Stalker. I had Colonel Rico Player from Marine Command Depot, Recruiting Command Depot on my show, and he's a Emmy Award winner. He wrote this off the record book. So he was my most senior officer Marine. You're my most senior enlisted Marine to be on my show, and I am so glad to have you on the show. Everybody, put it up together for Master Gunnery Sergeant Scott Stalker in the house. He's a guest of the PHIner Life Show. Yes, I mean, let's talk about it. Let's get right into the show. This is our Memorial Day show, / I like to say career development show. Okay, I still wear the uniform. I still got this thing. I don't let the beard fool you. Okay, it was a long layoff. Okay, but I got drilled next month, and all of this will be gone away. All gone away. So I'm very big into giving information to veterans and current service members, and that's why you're here, Master Gunnery Sergeant Stalker.
Right. Well, thank you. And like I said, when we started here, Master Guns is fine. I'm looking forward to the opportunity to talk to you, to talk to your audience, to answer some questions you have, and tell you why I think Memorial Day is significant, not just for me personally and Space Command, but as a nation. And so thank you for the opportunity to share some stories with you.
Most definitely. So we're gonna jump right in. You're from Lebanon, New Hampshire. And I feel that every military journey begins with a story. So I would really like to know the Scott Stalker story, growing up in New Hampshire, and just really what propelled you to even joining the Marine Corps.
Yeah, so thanks. I was born in New Hampshire, and most of my family still lives in the Boston area. And so one thing anyone knows that's from the Boston area is you're instantly a Red Sox, Celtics, New England Patriots fan and Bruins fan, whether you want to or not. So I've got that as a card carrying member. But I left there when I was 4 because my father was in the Army. And as a soldier, as you know, you move quite often. And so we moved as a family. I'm the oldest of 3, so two sisters and myself. We moved to San Francisco, the Bay Area of California, where he served a couple more years in the Army, and then he got out. And so most of my growing up from the age of 5 to 17, I grew up in the California area. So very, very different, but a lot of opportunities there for me. I remember, starting off, and my family wasn't very wealthy, and so I had to understand what it was like to make money. I ended up getting a paper route when I was 12, and I didn't make enough money, so I bought one of my friends out and took his paper route as well, and that allowed me to have a certain lifestyle. And that kind of work ethic will lead into some stories we'll talk about later of doing well in life. But I joined the Marine Corps actually at the age of 16 and came in at 17 through the delayed entry program. I finished high school early, and the only thing I wanted to do, a little bit naively, was go to war. And fortunately, but at least at the time, in my own mindset, was unfortunately, I missed Desert Storm. And so I thought, wow, I missed my opportunity. I missed a chance to do this because I had come in to be an infantryman, an infantry Marine. And when I went to boot camp, you take those tests. That test tests some of your ASVAB score and your intellect. And I was talked into becoming an intel specialist. And so I left boot camp and went to intel school, and thought, wow, I missed my opportunity. And so what you won't find in my bio, what you won't find on Wikipedia, what you won't find anywhere, is that I actually graduated dead last in my class at intel school. I was so bummed out. In all seriousness, I was bummed out. I thought, wow, I'm not going to get to do what I want to do. And so I put no effort into it. And so, as the Corps rightly did, they punched me in the face with graduating 30th of 30, dead last in my class. And I thought, wow, I missed another opportunity. And so when I checked into my first unit there at Marine Corps Air Station in New River, North Carolina, I had a sergeant, Bob Howard, who to this day, 30 years later, still writes me almost every day sends me emails, checks in on me. But he mentored me and he told me, hey, Marine, you're doing really well, and you'll do 4 years, and that'll be it. But you're not doing enough to improve, to show that you want to be a leader. And so he set me straight quickly. And it was odd how getting his mentorship and having an NCO who was invested in me quickly led to opportunities. And I found myself getting a phone call about 3 months into that tour. This was in 1993, getting a call saying, hey, there's a Marine who is injured. He's not able to deploy. Do you want to go on this deployment? And I went on that deployment with 26 MU. I remember on the 6th of June, 1994, which was the 50th anniversary of Normandy and D-Day. We were there. I was there. I saw the Queen and President Clinton and saw all those individuals. But what was interesting was I quickly shifted, and that's right after Black Hawk Down, if you remember what happened. And so the Marine Corps was told, we're going to help the Army get out of Mogadishu. So I found myself off of the USS Guam, coming into Mogadishu, and at the age of 18 years old, in Afgoye Road in Mogadishu. And that was a quick touch of reality. Hey, this is the real deal. You are in combat quickly. And then I reassessed my desire to join the Marine Corps. And hey, why did you want to go to war? Because now it's real. And it's not just a book. It's not just a movie. And I think every individual who has been in a kinetic operation, ground combat operation, or something like that, you quickly reassess. Be careful what you ask for. And so that was my initial tranche into the Marine Corps. And certainly I've now been in just shy of 30 years since then.
Wow. Wow. Getting what you asked for. And definitely that's something that I think today's, generation, they play the Call of Duty, they play the Medal of Honor games, and quickly, if you do go downrange, that's what we call it in the military, when you do deploy, you don't get to respawn. This is not a game, and definitely speaking from my experience going to Afghanistan, having an RPG flying over my head, that was not cool. I didn't like that. Yeah. But I really want to go just rewind. So sure. Bob, mentoring you.
Yeah.
What is, and we'll get more into, professional development and Memorial Day, but this always strikes me, whether it's an officer, whether it's an NCO, whether it's enlisted, mentorship. What were some of the things that he did for you as a mentor that pushed you, that today's Marine, Guardian, Coastie, Army, Navy, Air Force, what can NCOs do for their enlisted to push them to that next level?
I think, in many ways, leadership is very similar to love. And I'm a father of 2 young girls. And the one thing you have to do is make sure accountability is in there. And so Bob, who was Sergeant Bob Howard at the time, made sure that there was accountability for my actions. And that doesn't mean brutal leadership. That doesn't mean, really, being a dictator or something like that. It was, hey, these are the things you need to do. I'm going to hold you accountable. You are going to do those. And we didn't get into what would happen, but it was kind of implied, right? Certainly wasn't going to get promoted, certainly wasn't going to stay around in the Marine Corps, and probably wasn't going to get to do the things that most Marines sign up to do, which was to go forward and to do those things. And so I think it was accountability for me. What you don't find in those video games, and I'm not a gamer, but that's great if you are, but I haven't seen any video games that take you through recruit training and put you through the grit and the hard work and the bumps and bruises along the way. Normally you start off, you pitch play, you got your rifle and you're just running around in the video game and you're killing a lot of people. That glamorizes it. That's certainly not what it is about. But for me, being developed by Bob, he's someone that I knew genuinely cared. And I think as a leader, you've got to show that you genuinely care about your folks. You do have to hold them accountable. And then the one thing Bob did for me was he kind of showed me how to do these things. He was asking me, for example, as an intelligence specialist, I was putting all of the order of battle down to the battalion level for some areas in Bosnia that we may had to go into. And so I was putting all that in there, and he walked me through how to do it. It wasn't just, hey, go in this vault and go do it. He showed me. So you show the way, and then you hold people accountable, and then you train him along the way. And I knew Bob cared because he was there with me in the mornings and there in the evenings, and continued to coach me along the way. When I was deployed in Somalia, when I was deployed years later in a civil war in Tirana, Albania, when I deployed in other places in Iraq, we still communicated, and he still would occasionally say, "Hey, are you reading this book? Are you thinking about this?" Showing that he cared. And so I know Bob to this day. I can call as soon as we leave here, and we can have a conversation, and he'll give me some words of advice, some tips. He would probably say at this point I'm mentoring him, but I think it's a two-way street.
Wow, that's phenomenal. Um, wow, you just named some very historic places that even as a young service member that I've only read about. You know, Mogadishu, civil war in Albania, Iraq. What was out of those three, or maybe throughout your military journey, what was a career defining moment for you? Like where maybe you had that aha moment.
Well, there was a couple, right? Certainly, aha moment is landing. I was a CH-46 machine gunner, so a door gunner on helicopters when we went into Somalia, and landing there and then walking the streets. Um, there's not a moment where the stress level drops because you can hear the crack of small arms fire. Occasionally, fires are going off and tires are burning, and so the aha moment at that point was that knowing this is real, and your Marines' lives depend on you. Your sailors that are with you, especially the corpsman that was assigned with us, their lives depended on me and falling back on my training. So this was real. But one of the better moments that really, to me, personified what the American military is about and Marines in this mission is when we went into Tirana, Albania. So this was day 2 or 3 in the middle of that civil war. We went in with the mission to evacuate American citizens and third country nationals. Okay, and so these third country nationals happened to be at the time from Italy. And I remember loading a family onto a CH-46, and this mother and her child was with her, and they were scared out of their minds, right? So we have weapons on us. I've got a machine gun. We got helicopters. There's explosions going off all throughout the city. And I remember this little girl being held by her mother, and it's touching as a father. Um, and she said thank you. And to me, that's why we do what we do, is to see that mom appreciative. I have no idea. This was 25-ish years ago. I have no idea where that mother is today, where her child is today. I hope what we did is we gave them an opportunity, and getting them out of there. We then flew them into Italy, and I don't know. The story ended for me. I'm not sure what happened to them for there. But that made you feel really good. You were very, you felt, wow, this is important. We are risking our lives potentially to save others, so others may live, and it made me feel good to know we did something good for that family and many families, because we spent a lot of time there in Tirana, getting people out, getting Americans out, getting third country nationals out, and then working with the State Department to make sure they went wherever they were approved to go. But that was an aha moment for me, and it felt good. It still does.
Mm. Now, you're no stranger to, I'm just saying right now, you're like the senior enlisted leader for U.S. Spacecom, but before then, you're no stranger to working at a high command and high levels. I can just imagine every conflict or any assignment or any mission, you just seem to just climb the ladder. And I really quickly want to touch upon this point. And I feel honored to be talking to you because you're the first ever Marine to hold the position of a command senior enlisted for DIA, which is the Defense Intelligence Agency. And I don't think a lot of folks know about DIA. I know about DIA, but I don't think the regular everyday civilian, Susan, Joe, Kevin, Shanette, they don't know what the mission of DIA is. So quickly, could you talk about that assignment, and really, how does it feel to be the first ever Marine to hold that position?
I will, but I must say that me having, and actually didn't even think of that until you had mentioned it before. But me having that, first, if you will, has actually very little to do with me. It has to do with the director of DIA, at that time, Lieutenant General Vince Stewart, who came to the United States as an immigrant from Jamaica when he was 12 years old with nothing in his pockets. And he worked his way up to becoming a 3-star general, the director of DIA. And so when the opportunity came to compete for that position, and I was the Marine Corps nominee, we had a relationship we had developed in the past. And he had, we developed trust together, we had worked together. But there's a cultural piece, the significance. In my service, he probably wasn't supposed to bring me on. Normally, he brings in a sergeant major, a command chief, a command master chief, but he went a little bit against the grain there, and he probably had some folks saying, hey, you can't do that. But what I loved about him is he remembers where he came from, and he remembered that it's about opportunity. And so I got that opportunity. We did great things there together, working with General Stewart. He had a day what we called E Pluribus Unum Day, where we didn't celebrate this ethnic day or this month or you name it. We said out of many one, and we celebrated everyone collectively as an agency team. And so I learned so much from Vince Stewart. He's someone I still talk to often, and an incredible individual. The bottom line of our mission at their mission of DIA when I was there, the mission was to make sure we provided all source intelligence to the warfighter, whether that's a commander on the ground, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Secretary of Defense, so that they have situational awareness and they understand really the insights that the agency has into what's going on across the world, hopefully to give them a decision advantage so that they can put troops in a certain area, maybe not put troops in a certain area, whatever the case may be, but it's to make sure that they have decision advantage based off of world-class intelligence.
I got what I wanted. I think Susan at home is like, okay, give them a leg up. Got it. and really, that's something that, when you think about the military, we always, back in the States, we always see the conflict and then you see the results, but you really never see how the cake is being made. Yeah. And the cake has many layers, So I really want to ask this because there are going to be people that are going to join the military tomorrow. They might join the military next month. And I really would love for you to share, what are some of the highlights from your career, or maybe some of the experiences, the tips and the tricks that you learned along your military journey that you like to impart to individuals before they even put on the uniform, I'm
going to get on an airplane and I'm going to go to Virginia and speak to a military academy there. And then a day later, I'll meet with my boss at the Naval War College. And we're going to talk to, again, I'm going to talk to 9th and 12th graders about this. And I talk a lot about this thing called the shopping cart. And it's just an image I put up, and it's a leadership vignette. And my point in this is it's about character. So I can educate and train you to be better at your job. You can get smarter. You can become a better leader. We can go run all day or pick up weights or do, swim or whatever the case may be and get physically stronger. But what we need at the end of the day are individuals of character. And so the shopping cart represents that. That is when it's cold and wet outside, when it's miserable and no one is around and it doesn't matter, are you going to do the right thing and return the shopping cart? If you can't do something that simple, then you probably shouldn't join the armed forces. You probably shouldn't get a commission as an officer, and you certainly shouldn't be a senior enlisted leader or a non-commissioned officer. And so there's basics and fundamentals that are wrapped into all of this. And to me, that's what I try to focus on. That's what I try to get everyone to understand is this is about service. The best thing for me now is certainly not getting an award or standing in a formation and hearing about incredible things that I did. It's who did I develop? Who did I help mentor? Who did I help coach, teach? Who did I call to say, you need to consider Jones or Smith for this assignment? That's what I really am gratified about. And that's what I think is incredibly important for people that are in my positions. And that's what I learned from Vince Stewart, from General Vince Stewart, is look behind you, pull someone up, and give them an opportunity. And the key to that too is not always someone an opportunity that may look like you. It could, in my case, obviously as a male, it could be for a female. It could be for individuals that have different abilities or whatever the case may be. It's making sure others have an opportunity so that we can grow. And so that's where I'm focusing on today. Certainly, if you were to ask me what I'm doing here at Space Command, it's making sure our people are focused on the mission, which is to deter conflict, but if we need to be ready to fight and win, and that they understand the commander's strategic guidance and direction.
Mm. So you hit on something that I want to bring back.
Okay.
Rewind. Development.
Yeah.
I think that whether it's the armed forces, the nonprofit sector, the profit sector, it's all about development.
Right.
And I would love for you to share, in your mind, a little bit of insight into Master Gun Stalker's, developmental, leadership developmental skills. What do leaders, what skills do they need? Whether it's hard or soft, what do individuals need to become leaders?
There's probably a checklist of things, the 12-step process, the 13-step process, and this and that. I think what you've got to be first and foremost is humble and curious. Curious so that you're asking the questions. You're humble enough to know that oftentimes, okay, I'm an E9, I'm an old guy, but that doesn't mean I know it all. And so humble enough to ask the junior enlisted, the officers, the civilians that you work with for not just advice, but often the technical know-how. And hey, this is what I'm trying to accomplish, and I can set that strategic goal for them. And then going to them and how do I go about this? How do we get to yes collectively as a team? And so being humble is critical, being approachable, and that's something I have to work on, quite frankly. I think as a Marine, I'm not the smallest guy either, and quite frankly, I know I'm an intense individual. And so I've got to make sure that I'm mindful of that optic that others may have of me so that I am approachable, so that I can have people that are comfortable having a conversation with me without being too nervous. And so you've got to be able to look yourself in the mirror and say, where are my blind spots? What is not just, what's in here, but what's the perception others have of me? And how do I break that down? One of the ways I try to do that, and it's hard in a command that's global, in a command where we're traveling all over the place, but what I prefer to do when I can is to not do things via email. It's to engage with individuals face to face. Again, not always the easiest way to do that, because we're all over the place, but where you can to do that, to have the phone call, to do the Zoom meeting, or whatever the case may be. So that's kind of how I would approach that.
Awesome. Now I'm going to kind of throw you a question that it's not going to be hard, but it's going to be hopefully in depth. I like in-depth questions. I like to keep my audience going. So you talked about something that really hit me. You said growing up, you took your friend's paper out. And in my head, I was like, I'm from New York. I'm sorry, Master Gunstalker. I'm from New York. I'm a hustler, baby. So I was like, that's a hustler. That's somebody that really, the what's happening in your life is going to determine your future. And growing up a certain way and needing to go and provide for your family, you get desperate and you want to do the things that will help elevate you out of that situation, and that quality, of you being a hustler and just going out and going for it and doing what's necessary to provide for your family, it seems to be a trait that, okay, this is the ground that I'm willing to put the work in. I'm willing to work hard. Now, there are a lot of individuals who might be serving in the military, who might be at their job right now, and they really work hard, but they don't know how to navigate up the structure. They don't know how to navigate up the ladder, whether it's corporate or military.
Yeah.
What are some of the qualities that have helped you climb the ladder, during your career and in life?
It does start with being humble, but then what I think most people need to realize is you've got to be connected and build relationships. So if you're speaking publicly, knowing your audience and knowing it's more important to connect with the person than just to speak for an hour or however long it is. And so I've worked really hard on networking and connecting. Next week we're getting ready to have a commanders conference, and an awful lot of the individuals we've looked to bring on one who happens to be in the Ukraine today. I won't mention his name for his own safety, but he's a personal friend of mine, and we've developed those relationships. Relationships come from building a professional reputation. I started earlier about how I was dead last in my class. My professional reputation at the time wasn't very positive. It was, hey, Stalker might show up on time, but other than that, we're not quite sure what we'll get out of him. And so putting in the work, developing that professional reputation, I say that every day is an interview. And what I mean by that is it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for me to have a professional engagement with Greg. And then when we're done, you'll say, hey, Stalker was someone who knows his stuff, or hey, let's never call him again, right? And over time, that mindset of every day being an interview, not so that I can get some new job. Quite frankly, this is most likely where I'll retire from. I won't retire while I'm here, if you understand what I mean. My foot will be on the gas every single day, but knowing that it's an opportunity, and then being mindful of the connections and the networks that I have, so that the individuals that I see as strong up and coming individuals, I can push them and give them opportunities as well. So it should no longer be about the leader. It's about the people that you get an opportunity to develop and provide them opportunities.
That's beautiful. Now, before we go into U.S. Space Command, which is still new, it's still a new branch.
Right.
Even for me, it's still new. Before we go into that, I'm gonna do a little something for my enlisted folk. We're gonna talk about promotion real quick, real quick, like for 5 minutes, and then I'm gonna go into U.S. Space Command. For all the enlisted folks, and even for the junior officers, what gets people promoted? What as a command senior enlisted leader, what are some of the things that you see that throughout the whole entire service, no matter what branch, it really racks your brain, and you're like, if you just follow these steps, or if you follow this formula, you might get promoted a little bit quicker.
Right. So each service is slightly different. There's going to be, all of us have basics that you've got to do, whether it's PME, time and grade, you name it. But at the end of the day, you're not going to get promoted from E6 to E7 if you're doing E6 level work. You're not going to get promoted from E8 to E9 if you're doing E8 level work. You've got to show that you can take on more responsibility, and it even becomes even greater as an E9 when you want to move up from working with an 05 to an 06 and so on and so forth. Those general officers, those colonels that know your professional reputation are going to recommend you based on how you've performed and where you can go. All right. And so I think it's really having this idea of lifelong learning, of pursuing excellence, of trying to add value. I work for a 4-star. I've worked for 3 4-stars now. And every time I never ask them, hey, can I do this? I let them know what I am doing. I'll walk them through my plan of developing our people or something like that. I'll make sure that's in line with what they want to go, and then I'll move out unless they tell me otherwise. And I think that's what commanders and leaders need, is someone who's going to say, okay, I'm here now. I'm going to own my position, dominate my battle space, and take this on and develop my people, or whatever your mission set is, and then let the boss know, obviously before you get approval to do that, and then move out. But it's this idea that getting you to the next spot is going to take more than what got you to the current spot. And I think, although that's simplistic, ultimately that's what it's going to take for folks to make Chief Master Sergeant, if it's in the Air Force or the Space Force, or Sergeant Major, or whatever the case may be. What you did in the past isn't necessarily going to get you someplace in the future.
I love that little nugget right there. Just somebody's watching this, they're like, okay, do more than what I'm doing. Check. Yes.
It's not necessarily about putting in an extra hour. That may help. It's not necessarily about doing more. It's providing greater value. And so I can do more push-ups, right? And I can do more of emails, or I can push more paper, or that sort of thing. It's adding more value. It's delivering on the mission set of your command. Okay. And so I've served in 1st Marine Division, 2nd Marine Division, 3rd Marine Division. I've served in them all. Doing that job here won't get me what I need to do for my commander. And so it's tailoring that and adding more value, not necessarily just doing more for the sake of doing more.
I just picked up something in there. Got it.
Okay,
I'm
gotcha.
picking up. I'm like, oh, okay, because I have to go to jail in a couple of weeks. I'm like, okay, got it. Something I haven't been doing, even as a
Solving
senior
hard
enlisted leader.
problems, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
I worked for at Cyber Command, my last job with the commander there. Um, he wanted leaders that can solve hard problems. That's what I want to be able to do for my commander. Is not have him worrying about these things that are my business. I'll give him follow-ups, but solving hard problems. Anyone can present hard problems. Okay, if you're an E9, if you're a commander, you need to be solving hard problems.
Mm. So let's get into U.S. Space Command.
Let's do it.
If you were to talk to the regular, everyday person, and you only had 4 or 5 sentences, what would be, the Space Command message, or, what would you say to get the everyday person to understand your mission?
So first off, we're not special. We are Space Command. We are my commander is charged with understanding and having space domain awareness, understanding the domain. So space starts at 100 kilometers above sea level and is either infinite or growing or expanding depending on who you talk to. But it's big, right? Space is a large domain. Our charge is to make sure that we deter conflict in space, to make sure that we have free and open space and access for commercial, for partners, for our allies, you name it, even our competitors. We want to make sure that space is free and open for all because we rely on it for everything. For us having this engagement right now, we're relying on space-based capabilities. Whether we want to use a GPS, whether we want to do satellite communications in combat, precision guided munitions, you name it. It's linked to everything we do in our economy. And so my commander and the individuals, myself, that work here are making sure that we're executing that mission. What we are not, we're not the Space Force, okay? And so that's where there's great confusion. As my name take here, excuse me, says Marines, we have individuals here that are in the Space Force. And so each service provides service members to this combatant command headquarters to execute the mission that General Dickinson has been assigned. And so that's kind of where we are. Making sure that we defend our vital interests with our partners and allies, working with them, bringing in more partners and allies. We continue to expand. You would be amazed. One of the things we do here is called space domain awareness. And when I got here a little over a year and a half ago, we were tracking roughly 25,000 objects in space, debris, satellites, you name it, right? We're now well past 40,000, and that's in a year and a half. So the growth of space, commercial partners, what's going on in space continues to grow. And so you'd be amazed at what we're doing. Ultimately, hoping that we can enable air, land, and sea and cyber domains to operate freely as well, so that if the SecDef should need, if the president should need to call on my commander, we can provide him options if needed.
Um, Memorial Day. Let's get into really, the portion of the show where I love to get every service member's insight, as many people as I talk to, and in as many interviews that I do, because oftentimes those that have made the ultimate sacrifice for our nation, sometimes their memories are only preserved by their family members, close friends, American Legion VFW posts, military fraternity and sorority posts. But what does it mean while you're serving in uniform, for you, Master Gun Stalker? What does it mean for you when remember those that might have perished on the battlefield or lost their lives in the line of service? What does Memorial Day mean to you?
Right, and one of the things there's often conversation about Memorial Day and Veterans Day and those types of things. What I try to do is if someone says thank you for your service on Memorial Day, I don't push them aside and shun them. I'm appreciative of that, but then call into attention what Memorial Day really is. And for me, it's deeply personal. I have lost a lot of teammates and friends in combat. I've lost a lot of teammates and friends outside of combat as well. And so I think of names like Senior Chief Shannon Kent, who was killed in Syria. A few years ago, I was with my commander, the President of the United States, and others as we did her repatriation ceremony in Dover, Delaware. I think of an individual that I recruited into special operations Marine Corps Special Operations Command. So I think of Staff Sergeant Eric Christian, who was killed in Afghanistan. And then it gets really personal. I think of my brother-in-law, who was shot in the head in Iraq in 2003. He lived for several years as a quadriplegic and due to incredible medical care, but he ultimately succumbed to his injuries and died there. And so it's personal, and I think that is why I am intense when I put this uniform on, when I come into work, because I don't think we have time to get it wrong. We've got to train hard. We got to make sure it's realistic and tough. And that's where, as a leader, I've got to make sure we're holding each other accountable so that we're accurate and we're doing everything we can to try to get to a spot where we don't think of Memorial Day in terms of the deeply personal relationships that I've had. I'd love to hear that a couple of generations talk about great power peace or global peace breaking out. That's not reality right now. And so for a lot of us in uniform, it's not just a day off. It is not a day off for me. It is about remembering the many teammates that I have. Whenever I go into Washington, D.C., if I get in before 1700 or I have any time at all, I always, at least 3 to 4 times a year, will go to Arlington National Cemetery, and I'll visit the individuals whose names I read off, and then several others, teammates that I have there as well.
Now, I'm going to ask just for your, how do you feel, and just utilizing your insight and just your experience and maybe what how do you, how would you advise somebody that maybe does not come from the military, has never thought about joining the military, doesn't have any family in the military, and you said you educate people, and if they thank you for your service on Memorial Day, because sometimes people don't know the difference between Memorial Day, Independence Day, and they don't know the difference. So what do you suggest to civilians how to, I don't want to say celebrate Memorial Day, you never celebrate Memorial Day, but acknowledge Memorial Day?
I don't think whenever someone's being kind, whether, I'll have people will call me sir and they say, oh, I'm sorry, Master Guns. When someone's being kind, that's not the time to counsel them or to put them down. It is an opportunity to educate them and let them know what the difference is between Memorial Day or Veterans Day or, any of the holidays and what's unique about them. And so I think that's a chance that if you can, and time allows, whether you're on an airplane and they say thank you for your service, I don't want to get upset if someone thanks me for my service. I appreciate that. Okay. Now I have a chance to let them know why it's Memorial Day is deeply important for us. And that's why, I think as citizens, we have to be mindful of when we vote, we take those things serious, our freedoms that we have out there. We in uniform want to preserve those rights and those freedoms for our citizens. And so we just ask that they take things serious. And I'm not implying they don't. But when it's time to vote, when it's time to engage with your elected leadership, when you may be voting with your dollar, whatever the case may be, that's how I think you can really thank individuals for their service. Is electing individuals with the intellect and character that they have or that they think is important, so that we can have the America and continue to protect our democracy and our republic that we started this experiment in 1776 and where we are today, so that we can progress toward that more perfect union. We don't have a perfect union. We progress towards that more perfect union. And so, you can say, hey, it's not Memorial Day or it's not Veterans Day, and you can shun them, but you've done nothing except turn someone off. Use as an opportunity to educate, and maybe you can learn something from them as well. Maybe they have a brother or sister or a father, or uncle, whatever the case may be, that served, and you can talk about their service.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right. I don't want to keep you too much longer, Master Gun Stalker. So where should people follow U.S. Space Command? Where all the social media and promotion time.
Well, let me tell you, so we certainly have the best .mil website in spacecom.mil. So please check us out there. That's our official page. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. And just recently, Space Command also got a LinkedIn account. And so follow us there. You'll see the check mark to make sure you're following the official account. And our team does an incredible job of telling our story. It's not the Scott Stalker story. It's not the General Dickinson story. It's the story about the women and men at Space Command and what we are doing collectively as a team to make sure all those things I talked about, the freedom of space, the abilities that you have to use space-based capabilities are there. You'll also see, for those that are interested in maybe being a member of Space Command, you'll see opportunities to join, whether that's joining as a civilian, maybe a contractor, or certainly we can have conversations about joining the military and potentially serving here at another point. And so again, and I'm not just saying this, we do have the best website out there, spacecom.mil. Check us out, and then look for us on Facebook, Twitter, and now on LinkedIn as well.
All right, beautiful. And for everybody else that is just a PHIner Life Show watcher, you know where to find us. You come on all the social media channels. You know that we're on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, wherever you go. Just put in the PHIner Life Show, the PHINER Life Show, PHIner Life Show. And also find us on the web, www.mbphikings2017.org. That's www.mbphikings2017.org. See what we're up to. See how we're developing our members, and community service is our thing. And my light is going out. That means I've talked too much. All right, Master Gun Stalker, thank you very much for being a guest on the PHIner Life Show. Thank you for helping us to acknowledge Memorial Day, and thank you for giving those enlisted and senior enlisted and junior officers career advice. That's always a great thing. Mentorship and knowledge is always a great thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me today and allowing me to share a little bit of our story here. Appreciate it, brother.
All right, thank you.